My younger brother has been giving our parents a lot of attitude lately. The moment mom or dad walks into his room just to tidy up a little, he gets annoyed, says he does not like that, and tells them to leave because they came into his room without asking for his permission first. And when my dad asks him, "What has been going on with you lately? Why have you been slacking off so much with your schoolwork?" he only gives a careless answer like, "Just leave me alone," or he even ignores the question completely and does not bother answering at all. At times like that, my dad usually gets very angry and gives him a harsh scolding. But after every time he gets yelled at like that, my younger brother only becomes even more irritated. He always has a gloomy look on his face, barely talks, and almost does not talk to anyone else in the family anymore. Even though he used to be a very cheerful kid, someone who talked a lot and always loved telling us all kinds of stories about what happened at school. But now, he is completely different. And little by little, I realize that almost every family has a child who goes through that stage. When children begin entering their teenage years, they start needing privacy and a personal space that feels like it belongs to them alone. If parents do not understand that, then actions that seem very small can sometimes create a huge distance between parents and their children. That is why, in today's video, we are going to take a look at the mistakes parents can make that may cause teenagers to slowly lose trust and become distant, and why those things happen in the first place. Now, let us get started. Mistakes that make teenagers lose trust in their parents. Number 1. Invading your child's privacy. A lot of parents today share a common habit. They walk into their child's room when the child is not home, go through desk drawers, or glance through personal belongings to see whether their child is doing anything wrong. In an adult's mind, this can feel completely justified, even like a noble responsibility that comes with being a parent. You tell yourself you are only doing it to protect your child, to stop danger before it starts, like a parental version of Fast and Furious, flooring the gas because of fears that exist mostly in your imagination. You believe that because you love your child, you have the right to know everything happening inside their territory. But from the perspective of a teenager, that feeling is not protection at all. It feels like an invasion of their last remaining fortress. When you go through their things or try to find some kind of evidence so you can feel reassured, the message your child receives is not love. The message is this: my parents do not trust me to make good decisions on my own. In reality, you are teaching your child that privacy is something they have to beg for, instead of a basic right they deserve as an independent human being. When you step into that space, you are trying to pin your child's life tightly under your control, and in doing so, you unintentionally take away their chance to grow up. The result is that, just to protect the little freedom they have left, children begin to learn how to lie and hide things like experts. This is not because they are bad kids. It is because lying has become the price they have to pay just to breathe. Years later, your child may not even remember what you found in that room, but the feeling of betrayal and the feeling of being emotionally exposed by the very people they trusted most can leave a wound that stays with them for life. So instead of constantly invading your child's privacy to check on their life just so you can feel at ease, treat their privacy as the default. Trust your child first, and only step in when there are real signs of concern. When children feel that their space is respected, they are much more likely to open up and share with you. Number 2. Always trying to control your child. One common mistake many parents make is trying to control their child too much. You want your child's life to unfold exactly the way you want it to. From forbidding them to hang out with a certain friend, to strictly monitoring every minute of their phone use and banning them from texting friends, to expecting them to always appear obedient, respectful, and never allowed to show any personal attitude of their own. Sometimes, You may even unknowingly push your child to live the life you once wanted for yourself, forcing them to chase things they do not even like, just to satisfy your own sense of security or pride. In the minds of many parents, controlling a child is a way to protect them and help them avoid mistakes. But children do not see it that way. They only feel that their parents are controlling too much and making them feel trapped, like they have no right to make choices in their own lives. And yet, the teenage years are a stage when young people need guidance, but they also need enough breathing room to grow and learn how to make decisions for themselves. When everything is controlled too tightly, many teenagers start doing things in secret because they are afraid of being criticized by their parents. Over time, they also become less confident and no longer dare to make decisions about their own lives. That is why parents should be companions, people who offer the right advice at the right time. Instead of becoming managers, their children always feel guarded around. Only when children no longer feel restrained will they have enough confidence to live honestly as themselves and turn to their parents as a source of support instead of a barrier. Number 3. Placing too much weight on achievement. Do you often ask your child questions like, "How many points did you get today? Did you do well on the test? How is your class ranking lately? Why is your score lower this time than last time? It is only studying, so how can you still not do it well?" Questions like these often come up every time a child comes home from school, and little by little, almost every conversation between parents and children starts revolving around academic results. When a child gets high scores, parents feel happy and proud. But when the scores drop, parents begin to worry, criticize, or put pressure on the child to try harder. For many teenagers, constantly being measured by achievement can create a very deep fear, the fear of failure. Little by little, the distance between parents and children grows wider. Children become more distant and gradually lose trust in their parents because they feel they are loved only for their achievements, not for who they really are. Because of that, many children study only out of fear of disappointing their parents or being compared to other people. This pressure leads some of them to hide bad grades or even cheat on exams, just to avoid facing blame. Even more dangerously, when a child fails in school and does not receive understanding, they often fall into feelings of inferiority and begin to believe that they are not capable of doing anything well. That is why parents should focus more on their child's effort and progress than on the lifeless numbers written on paper. When children feel accepted even in failure, they gain the confidence to challenge themselves and discover their own strengths. Do not let report cards become a wall that stands between you and your child's soul. Number 4. Creating emotional pressure. What often causes children to gradually grow distant from their parents begins with the way parents respond to them emotionally. There are times when a child does something against your wishes, and the first thing you often do is lecture them by saying, "Do you know how hard we have worked, just hoping you would study well? We have paid for you to learn all these things, so why still can you not do it?" Or you may say blaming words like, "You have really disappointed us." Even though these words come from worry, for teenagers, they create emotional pressure. Instead of focusing on correcting their mistakes, children begin to feel surrounded by guilt because they have made their parents sad. Living under such heavy expectations, children can easily fall into a state where they are always forcing themselves to please adults, while inside, they feel constantly tense and exhausted. Some others choose to shut the door to their heart and become cold, because they feel that no matter how hard they try, it will never be enough. Over time, these things create an emotional distance that cannot be repaired easily. Children no longer dare to speak their true thoughts because they are afraid of disappointing their parents once again. That is why helping children clearly see the problem and work together to fix it is what helps heal those cracks in the relationship. When children feel kindness and respect, even in moments when they make mistakes, they will have enough determination to reflect on themselves. The understanding they receive from their family is the foundation that helps children keep learning, become stronger, stand back up, and grow more steadily after every setback. Number 5. Only paying attention to your child when there is a problem. When do you usually pay attention to your child? Is it when the teacher calls to say their school performance is slipping, when they make a mistake, or when they are crying because something happened? Only then do you start asking questions, reminding them, or trying to solve the problem. But in ordinary moments, you are often swept up in the non-stop rush of work and your own worries. Sometimes, you do not even have enough time to ask whether your child is feeling sad or happy. And this way of behaving unintentionally teaches your child that only when something goes wrong do their parents truly notice them. At that point, your attention no longer feels like unconditional love. It feels more like an inspection or an incident response. Instead of feeling protected, your child begins to feel that your presence is always tied to questioning, correction, or pressure-filled lectures. That is why the absence of everyday conversations, the kind that happen with no pressure and no specific agenda, can make your child feel like they are just a problem to be dealt with, instead of a person who needs to be understood. From there, children gradually become more distant and lose trust in their parents completely, because in their eyes, home is no longer a place to share what is on their mind. It has become a place where they feel judged. That is why what children truly need is their parents' presence in the ordinary moments of life. When parents spend time talking, listening, and showing care even when nothing is wrong, children feel valued. And that kind of listening is what becomes the foundation for trust between parents and children. Number 6. Dismissing your child's problems. For example, when your child tells you, "No one at school likes me, and nobody wants to play with me," and you just brush it off by saying, "That is just kid stuff. Do not pay attention to those things." Or, "Your job right now is to study hard and get good grades." Whether you have friends or not is not important. To adults, problems like that may seem small. But for a child in their teenage years, friendships are a very important part of life. At this stage, children begin learning how to build relationships, seek acceptance from the people around them, and form a sense of belonging to a group. So when they have problems with friends, feelings of sadness or isolation can affect them very deeply. When parents respond by downplaying the problem, what children feel is not comfort. What they feel is that what they are going through does not matter. Over time, if this happens again and again, children will slowly develop the belief that sharing their feelings with their parents is unnecessary, because in the end, it will all just be dismissed as something small. And when a child feels that their emotions are not respected, they begin to keep everything to themselves. Problems at school, sadness, and difficulties in life gradually stop being shared with their parents. This makes the distance between parents and children grow wider and wider, not because children do not need their parents, but because they no longer believe their parents can truly understand them. Real connection begins with respecting your child's inner world, no matter how naive or small it may seem. Instead of comparing your child's pain to school performance, simply stay beside them and acknowledge that they are going through a difficult time. Only when children feel that even their most private emotions are treated with respect will they have the courage to open up and trust their parents' guidance. Number 7. Thinking that you already understand your child. Parents today often think they understand their children very well, because they were young once too. and they assume that what their children are going through now is the same as what they went through in the past. So whenever their child does something wrong or faces difficulty, parents often say things like, "Back then, we had it much harder and still did well in school. At your age, we already had to do all kinds of work." Or, "Our generation was poor, and we still kept trying." And you hope those words will motivate your child to be stronger, but in reality, they create a very heavy comparison. That is because the world children are living in today is completely different from the world we lived in years ago. The pressures of intense competition, the influence of social media, and complex mental and emotional struggles are challenges unique to this generation, things the older generation never had to face in quite the same way. When you use the hardship of the past to dismiss the exhaustion of the present, your child will feel that their effort and pain are being looked down on, as if they are being labeled weak or lazy because life is too comfortable. That mindset of, "parents already know it all," is exactly what shuts the door on listening. For a child, the feeling of being misunderstood and having their personal experience dismissed often leads to discouragement. They no longer want to explain or open up, because they believe that no matter what they say, their parents will never truly understand. Instead, their words will only be used to lecture them or compare them to someone else. Their silence at that point is a sign that their trust in their parents' empathy has completely broken down. If parents want their children to open up, they need to stop using the past as a measuring stick and start listening with respect. Instead of assuming, "we already know," accept that your child is facing the pressures of a completely new and different era. Only when children clearly feel genuine understanding from their parents, without being compared, will they trust enough to see their parents as a source of support. And from there, they will be more willing to share and feel more connected to the family. The bond between parents and children is a journey of learning to understand each other a little more every day. Raising a teenager means learning how to loosen your grip so they can become independent, while still keeping your arms open so they always have a place to come back to. When you are willing to set aside the ego of being the one with more life experience, stop using the past as a measuring stick, and begin listening with respect, the door to your child's heart will open on its own. What children need most are companions who are compassionate enough to accept all their imperfections and patient enough to walk with them through the first storms of life. Only when home truly becomes the safest place, where mistakes are understood instead of punished, will the bond of family become truly strong, and nothing will be able to break it apart.